Perhaps one of the most impressive sites of the Mayan culture is located in Chichén Itzá, a place that holds many mysteries. It is located in the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, and is one of the most important complexes of the Mayan civilization. Chichén Itzá means mouth of the well of the water sorcerers. This name refers to the sacred cenote, the great natural well that the inhabitants of the region considered one of the most important entrances to the underworld. Supposedly, the place where the most important Mayan gods dwelt. If it came from the Huastec Chichen, it would mean feathered serpent. The ruling elite of Chichén Itzá, made up of warriors, priests, and merchants, was the one who introduced the cult of the god Kukulcán. According to Maya culture, there are three parts to the cosmos: the heavens, the earth, and the underworld, the latter being the place where the most important gods live. The Mayas tried to maintain the balance between this hidden world in the depths of the earth and theirs on the surface, because if the deities of the subway world were not happy, the consequences for them were terrible. Drought, famine, or disease would wipe out a large part of the population. For this reason, they believed that by making the offerings of human or animal sacrifices demanded by these beings, they would satisfy their voracious appetite and leave them in peace. We know that this is not new. In other cultures, the gods also demanded sacrifices. Even the Bible tells in Genesis June 22, 14, how Abraham almost sacrificed his only son, by order of God, something that was usual, only that, on that occasion, he was forgiven. Also, during the pilgrimage through the desert of Moses and his people, towards the Promised Land, God forced his people to attack all the tribes they found on their way, and take their lives as an offering. The first sacrifice spoken of in the Bible appears in Genesis, when Cain offers to God as a gift fruits and vegetables, and Abel sacrificed the firstborn of his sheep. Of course, that God rejected the vegetables and preferred the blood of animals, like the deities of other cultures. These entities feed on the energy of fear that living beings give off when they are sacrificed, and what they like most are animals and children. Curiously, for the Maya, the cenotes were the entrance to the underworld, and where human sacrifices were made, and then their bodies were thrown into the depths with the intention of gaining the favor of the terrifying god, Chuk. Perhaps, for this reason, the Pyramid of Kukulcán, also known as El Castillo, was located in the right place according to sacred geometry, since this construction is surrounded by cenotes to the north, east, south, and west. In addition, it is built on top of another cenote. Some archaeologists believe that El Castillo could represent the axis mundo, or center of the world. After analyzing the remains found in the sacred cenote of Chichén Itzá, they discovered that 80% were children between 3 and 11 years old, something that was very frequent. Recently, a group of divers explored 2 subway corridors that began in the small pyramid known as the ossuary. They expected to reach under El Castillo. However, the entrance was covered with piles of stones. No one knows why they did it. In the Castillo, one can appreciate the deep knowledge of mathematics, geometry, acoustics, and astronomy that the Maya possessed. Its faces are oriented to the 4 cardinal points, and the 365 steps correspond to the number of days of the year. In 1935, in the Temple of Kukulcán, the so-called Room of the Offerings or North Chamber was found, where there was a figure of Chuk Mul with mother-of-pearl shell inlays in his nails, teeth, and eyes. In 1936, the sacrificial chamber was discovered, inside which human bones and the sculpture of a jaguar, Panthera onca, of red color with 74 jade inlays that simulate the spots were found. 2 pyramids have been discovered inside El Castillo. The oldest is 10 m high, discovered thanks to the 3-dimensional electrical tomography that can illuminate the interior of the pyramid without damaging it. The second one measures 20 m up to the platform of the templete where the figures of Chuk Mul and the jaguar were found. The one we see today measures almost 30 meters. With the same technique, they discovered that the Pyramid of Kukulcán is built over a cenote. Twice a year, tourists await the descent of Kukulcán during the spring and autumn equinox. As some facades are deteriorated, no phenomenon of light and shadow is observed in the equinoctial sunrises. However, it is probable that, if the stairways and balustrades were restored, the ascent of the body of the serpent to the pyramid by the stairway of the southwest facade would be appreciated. These phenomena of light and shadow observed in the pyramid are proof of the knowledge they had. In the structure known as the observatory, the snail or circular building, light and shadow effects are also seen during the equinoxes. In the archaeological zone of Mayan, there is a smaller pyramid, but of equal proportions and, of course, dedicated to Kukulcán. The undulating projection of the serpent's body can also be seen during sunset near the solstices. However, it is not as spectacular due to the deterioration of the structure. Another interesting phenomenon occurs when someone applauds in front of the staircase. The sound propagates through the steps, bounces, and is distorted. That is, instead of hearing the applause, you hear a chirp similar to the song of a quetzal. We not only find snakes in the Pyramid of Kukulcán, we also find them in the architectural decoration of columns and lintels of other constructions of Chichén Itzá. In the Temple of the Jaguars, so called because these animals are found in its front part. Also, there are two gigantic feathered serpents that formed the columns in the entrance hall. More snakes appear in the Temple of the Warriors, one of the most impressive and best preserved. And next to it, there is the group of the 1,000 columns that, in fact, is a temple connected to that of the warriors, and receives its name by the 200 columns that are in the esplanade of the structure. In the ball game, the mythical combat between night and day is symbolized. Moreover, if one speaks in the temple at the south end, the voice can be heard at the opposite end, since the sound reverberates along the walls of the North Temple. On the platform of eagles and jaguars, these animals are shown devouring human hearts. The Temple of the Bearded Man is perhaps the best preserved of the buildings surrounding the Great Ball Court. The temple is named after a strange bearded man who heads the scene. Known as the caracol, a round structure very similar to others in Mesoamerica. We cannot fail to mention the church, a small building next to Las Mañas that has a single chamber and an access door, or the market in the shape of a T, and at the front rises a platform 80 m long by 15 m wide composed of a row of pillars. Seeing all the symbolism of Chichén Itzá, one cannot deny the great power that these supposed gods had over the population. In every corner of the planet, both in constructions and in ancient writings, our ancestors have left us testimony about the existence of these non-human beings that fed on the suffering and low vibrations of their subjects. More and more people realize that these non-human beings have always ruled our lives through fear and deception. In the old days, the people knew of their existence. Nowadays, they remain hidden, pulling the strings from the shadows. They are afraid of only one thing, and that is that the truth will be known.